You know, we all face them. Those tough decisions where the right path just isn't clear and the stakes feel incredibly high. Well, this explainer is all about building a practical toolkit. 3 powerful lenses you can use to bring some real clarity to your most difficult choices. Okay, I want you to imagine something. Imagine you're a doctor. A patient is recovering after a near-fatal overdose. But you and your team, you just realized the overdose was your fault. He seems to be okay now, but do you tell him what happened? Let's dive into a real case. So meet Ralph W. He's a recovering addict in treatment. After an incident, he received what might have been a 10 times overdose of methadone. He actually went into cardiac arrest, but miraculously, he was revived. Now, to make things even more complicated, the team suspects Ralph might have been manipulating them for drugs. So they're in a real bind. Do they tell him about the medical error? This is exactly the kind of messy, high-stakes problem that can feel, well, paralyzing. It's this tangle of professional duty, patient safety, and, let's be honest, legal risk. But here's the thing. We are not directionless. There are structured ways to think through a mess like this. Think of it like having a toolkit with 3 different lenses. Each one helps us see the problem in a new light. We can look at it from the perspective of our ultimate goal, or we can look at it through the lens of our non-negotiable principles, or we can look at the real-world consequences. So let's try them on, one by one. All right, our first framework. This one focuses on the end goal, or what you might call the ethics of the end. This way of thinking, which has roots in philosophy going all the way back to Aristotle, doesn't start with the question, what should I do right now? No, it starts with a much deeper question. What is the good we're actually trying to achieve here? What's our fundamental purpose? And this really gets to the heart of it. This framework forces us to think about identity. The decision isn't just about this one incident with Ralph. It's about what kind of character, what kind of reputation the clinic is building for itself for the long haul. So if the clinic's fundamental purpose is to heal and provide quality care, we have to ask, does hiding a serious error actually serve that purpose? Or does it create a culture of secrecy that slowly poisons the mission? This lens forces a choice, not just about the action, but about what kind of institution the clinic really wants to become. Okay, let's switch to our second lens. This one shifts our focus completely, from goals to rules. This is the ethics of principle. This framework, which is famously associated with the philosopher Immanuel Kant, argues that some things are just right and some things are just wrong, period. It's not about the outcome, it's about following unbreakable moral laws. The consequences, good or bad, don't actually justify the action. And Kant's famous quote here just nails it. It forces us to ask, are we treating people with the inherent dignity they deserve? Or are we just using them as tools to get what we want? This framework poses a really powerful challenge. It's about consistency. It's about fairness. It asks us to imagine if the rule we're about to follow should become a universal law for everyone, everywhere. Would that work? Looking at Ralph's case through this lens, the focus just completely shifts. By not telling him, is the clinic basically using him as a means to an end? The end being, protecting its own reputation? It pretty clearly violates his dignity and his right to make informed decisions about his own health. From this viewpoint, the principle of honesty is what's most important, regardless of whether telling the truth is inconvenient or causes some distress. And now for our final lens, which takes a much more practical, almost bottom-line approach. This framework is often called utilitarianism, or the ethics of consequence. This approach, championed by thinkers like Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill, is, well, it's all about doing the math. It says the most ethical choice is the one that creates the most happiness and the least suffering overall. It's basically a cost-benefit analysis of human well-being. Now, this requires a whole different mindset. You have to identify every single person or group affected, the stakeholders, and then you have to weigh the potential outcomes for all of them, not just the people in the room, but everyone. So here, it's a calculation. Yeah, not telling Ralph avoids a difficult conversation right now. But what happens if the truth comes out later? What about the damage to trust then? Or what if the system error that caused this overdose isn't fixed and it harms future patients? This lens argues that telling the truth, while maybe painful in the short term, likely produces the best long-term outcome for the greatest number of people. Okay, so we've put on 3 different pairs of glasses to look at this one very tough problem. And each one, as you can see, gave us a unique and really valuable perspective. So let's see how they stack up side by side. This shows so clearly how the lenses aren't really competing, they're complementary. One is focused on purpose, who we want to be. Another is focused on duty, the rules we live by. And the last one is focused on the overall outcome for everyone. Looking through all 3 gives you a much richer 360-degree view of the problem. And here is the key takeaway. The goal isn't to pick your favorite framework and just stick with it. The most robust, most defensible decisions are the ones that can stand up to scrutiny from all 3 perspectives. Ones that align with your purpose, that adhere to your core principles, and that consider the impact on all the people involved. So, the next time you face a tough call, remember Ralph W. and this toolkit. Ask yourself about the purpose, ask about the principles, and ask about the consequences. You might just be surprised by the clarity you find. The only question left is, which lens will you reach for first?